Welcome to Spiritually Raw, everybody. I'm Jay. This is April, your hosts and creators of the Gnostic TV network and the 5D economy. To learn more about our unique multidimensional method for manifesting or becoming a broadcaster yourself on Gnostic TV, you can check out our links below and connect with us on Instagram at 5D_mystics. So today, very cool. Join us today as we navigate the realms of consciousness with our special guest, very good friend of ours, Gina Gardiner, founder and CEO, Generally You, and host of the Enlightened Leadership on Gnostic TV, also in the descriptions below. Gina's got a free copy too. She wants you to get connected with the Generally You, the Leader's Spiritual Blueprint. The links will be in the description for you to get connected on that too. So make sure you do check that out. That's a lot of value from this young lady. Yeah.
That's an understatement. She's also the #1 international best-selling author with over 35 publications. She's a radical change catalyst speaker, a syndicated radio show with millions of viewers, and she ran an award-winning school, mostly from her wheelchair, following a serious ski accident. This led her to the development of a unique approach to leadership and personal development that has proven successful across multiple industries. She's a master business strategist, spiritual mentor, transformational leadership trainer, and she has over 35 years of experience.
That's it, Gina. That's it. 35 years. That's all.
Welcome to the show, Gina. It's been a minute since
thank
you last.
Oh, such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you have been through so much with your accident. And for those that are just watching, for the first time, can you just give us a brief little of what happened?
Basically, it was skiing in Austria. Friends that I was skiing with took a wrong turning. And so instead of being on a beautiful 6-kilometer red run, we were on a black diamond run, which was full of huge moguls. Skied the first bit, fell, took 20 minutes to reach my friends who are all sitting on moguls. Those are the snow's carved out by the wind. So these were 6-foot moguls. We were sitting on them rather like an elf on a mushroom. Hot sunny day, the top of it gave way. I rotated out, there was nowhere to land, and I fell about 200 feet. Fortunately, by this time, with the fall, the bit of skiing and the fall, I had done most of the ski slope. But a few weeks later, I had problems and became paralyzed down one side. And really, things were never quite the same again. But I wasn't actually skiing at the time. I was sitting on the mogul. I'm not sure that qualifies as a skiing accident. It was a sitting accident. Just happened to be in the wrong place.
So it happened afterwards. So the actual everything that happened, you noticed a few weeks later.
So I had concussion at the time, and I'd trapped a nerve in my neck. I'd gone skiing. I was that time was a deputy principal of a large school, and we'd taken the borough party skiing, 150 young people. And as the week went on, I became more like Quasimodo and was struggling. And on the last day, I went and laid on my bed in the evening, and I then suddenly found I was paralyzed down one side.
Gina, what you've been through and what you've come through into where you are now is just incredible. What is something that you've been able to do since the accident that you never thought you would be able to ever accomplish?
Well, I ran the school for 20 years, for the most part from a wheelchair. And if you'd had said to me at the beginning, when I became disabled, would I have been able to do that? I'm not sure I would. I worked for the government, did a number of jobs externally when I was serving as a head in order to bring a budget into the school. And I think my life trajectory would have been different if I had been completely able-bodied. And there've been huge gifts. And the gift for me was creating a very different approach to developing leadership for life and for business. And at the same time, it made me do the inner work on me. And I think that's a very precious gift. I believe in order to be a great leader to others, you have to do the deep dive work on yourself and lead yourself first. But I've been so many things that have happened. I'll give you a very small example. I went to do Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins, and he was talking about a course that he was running in California. Now, I'm in the UK, you can tell from my accent. I dismissed it because it didn't have a travel electric chair at that time, and I just thought it would be too difficult. That night was the firewalk, and by this time I'd had an internal spinal stimulator fitted, and I could walk a few steps with help. And I was determined to do the firewalk, and I did it. And as I sat back down in my wheelchair, really ecstatic that I'd managed the firewalk, the guy behind me was a double amputee, no legs below the knee. He tipped himself up onto his hands, and he walked those hot coals on his hands.
Wow.
And in that moment, I realized that even though I worked around the country and I ran the school, I was still self-limiting. I booked my ticket, I booked my flight, I went and did the course, I did all of his stuff, became a senior leader. And what he taught me was the thing that's going to limit us in life is not the external stuff, although those are a consideration. The biggest limiter of anything is us. And so my challenge to the viewers is, how are you self-limiting? What are you saying I can't do because? So the likelihood of me being a ballet dancer or a mountaineer is remote. However, there are so many things I can do. And for me, my approach is always not what can't I do, but what can I do? And how can I make things that seem not possible? How can I find a way around it? And by having that approach, my life has opened up, and I've done all sorts of things that I would not have thought possible at the beginning.
Do you, first of all, believe in reincarnation, number one? And if you do you believe that this accident was predetermined? Was it pre-planned before you got here?
Well, I think they're two somewhat different questions, really. I think I don't not believe in it, if that makes sense. I'm leaving my options open. But I do believe that at some level, soul level, we determine what lesson we need to learn in this life. And we come and have a spiritual, having a human experience, and that we predetermine the lessons that we need to learn. And I think I am going to have very strong words when I get back up there, because the universe will give us a slight poke and we don't take any notice. And then it gives us a bit of a punch, and then it gives us a slap in the face. It took me falling 200 feet down a mountain for me to wake up and start my spiritual journey. And so I think we do come to learn very specific lessons. It's up to us whether we listen when there's a whisper in our ear, or we wait till the universe shouts at us and beats us about a bit. And I think I was pretty slow to listen to the signs.
Was there a pre-accident? Was there a Gina in there that you felt like needed to be changed? Was there a Gina there that you didn't really care for, that now all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm a completely different Gina? Do you feel like there was humility that was your lesson? Like, what do you think came out of that?
I don't think there was ever a sudden lesson, but I didn't ever feel I fit in when I was at school. I was always on the peripheral. I just was a round peg in a square hole. Then I started teaching, and I found something that I was very good at and was promoted very early. I felt as if I belonged, but there was still something. There was still an incompleteness. I was searching for something. And of course, like so many people, we search on the outside for things, when the reality is all of the answers we need, I believe, are on the inside. And it wasn't until after the ski accident that I really started my journey of internal travel and internal navigation of who was I and what was I on this earth to do.
If you could, in the past 10 years, do you have a belief system that you had, let's say, 10 years ago or longer, that you no longer hold today?
I think I would say it's longer than 10 years. I'm quite long in the tooth. I'm 71 now, so I've had a lot of time to deal with this.
Look amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
Thank you. So I think if I look back to those years when I didn't feel I was enough, that I didn't fit in, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't slim enough, that I wasn't whatever enough. I think that lesson about we are enough in our imperfections. That doesn't mean to say that we can't be the best version of ourselves and use that as a foundation for the next version of our best self. But I think the shift from I'm not enough to I am truly enough, and I want to be the best version of myself and completely work on staying the best version of myself, which is a different iteration. I think that particular journey really started when I left headship at the age of 51 and started my own business, and then had the time to do a lot of deep dive courses and reading and things. When I was being a principal, I worked a 16, 17-hour day being a principal, so there wasn't the space in my life. But once there was, and I started the overtly spiritual journey rather than it just happening. My belief system in that time is shifting all the time, because as new information, and I don't just mean information that I've read in a book or been on a course, but the information that's being downloaded through me, that's shifting all the time. And as I take on board that, so it opens the door to something else. And I think we as humans like things in boxes, don't we? We like to, this is it. But ultimately, I think for me, my spiritual journey is about the belief of today is based on my experiences to date, but it's shifting and changing. And interesting for me in the last few years, the speed of acceleration for these things to become clearer, for things to change, has got greater.
How do you look at, like, so someone goes through an event that they're not necessarily is favorable for them? How long do you say going through what you've gone through, how long do you give yourself to say, you kick and you scream, I'm a victim, what the hell happened to me? How long do you give yourself before you say, okay, enough's enough, let me shake it off. This is where I'm at. Let me evolve from here. Like, how long should that human psyche really do? Because I know it's easy sometimes to get stuck in that loop.
I'd like to remove the word should, because I think everybody's different. I was brought up, my parents had a very strong, I was conditioned, if you're feeling not well or you're unhappy, go and do something useful, go and do something for someone else. So in many ways, I was very lucky that I had that as the foundation. That's not to say there haven't been dark days when I felt very sorry for myself and I've cried and all of those. I learned to walk after a failed back surgery. It took me 18 months to walk to the bottom of my very small garden. 3 months later, I ruptured another disc, and then I was completely wheelchair bound for about 8 years. And so, yeah, there've been really dark days, but I think if you have a really strong sense of purpose, and I have always had that sense of I'm here to be of service, then it's much easier to get over the dark days, because you can then focus on, well, okay, I'm limited in this way, but what can I do? How can I be? And I'm very fortunate, I think, in the sense that I am a positive person. I am a cup half full. What I think anybody listening to this is, you have to ask yourself the question, are you being good company for you? Because if you're moaning all the time and saying how awful it is, not only are you dreadful company for other people, but ultimately you've got to live with yourself. You're the common denominator every moment of every day. So you owe it to yourself not to get stuck in that realm of victimhood, because it's so unpleasant.
It is so unpleasant. Talk to me about taking radical responsibility.
So our thoughts, our beliefs, our behaviors, our words, we have the choice of how, what, how, when, and if. And every choice that we make, conscious or not, has a consequence. The interesting thing is that most of us are thinking habitually about 95% of the time. So there's no conscious choices. So somebody uses a tone of voice to you that you don't like. It triggers you to being that teenager's being moaned at by a teacher or a mum. You bite back. How many times have you heard people say, I don't know what we were arguing about? Because when they analyze the words are, there's nothing there, but the tone of voice has triggered them. So we can choose to unconsciously allow things to happen, or we can choose actively, consciously, how we are going to respond in any given situation. So when you take radical responsibility for your thoughts, if you want a better quality of life, then think better quality thoughts. Are my thoughts empowering me? Are they making me play small? Are they based on fear? Are they based on love? Are my beliefs empowering me? Think of the limiting belief I had that I couldn't go to America. When that belief was busted and it was a paradigm shift in a second, then I recognized that I could. When we take action or we speak, we are leaving a living legacy in everything we say or don't say. The problem, I think, for many people is they don't actively choose. And when we don't actively choose, often the consequences of that choice not to choose are far more deadly than when we take action. So this is about a consciousness about it is my choice what I think. It is my choice what I believe. It is my choice how I behave and what I say or not. And so for me, if you imagine a horizontal line, and that horizontal line is where my values are, and people tend to think of values high level. Well, let's talk about integrity, for example. I've got a blueprint for what integrity means to me. You'll have one, and both of you. And it may be somewhat the same, but the likelihood is that there'll be differences. So my line, horizontal line above the line, my behaviors, my language, everything is in line with my blueprint of integrity. But if I go below the line, that's out of alignment with my integrity. So if I find myself doing lots of complaining, or I get caught into people gossiping, that's out of alignment with my blueprint of integrity. If I don't tell the truth, if I don't do what I say I will do, unless there's a blooming good reason. So once you really have this mindset of taking radical responsibility, you are very conscious when you're approaching that line. And then you have a choice either to change and shift your behaviors or not. Or if you do dip below, then you recognize it very quickly and you're able to then take remedial steps and put things right.
Do you think that you would be at this level of consciousness and awareness if you hadn't had that experience when you were younger?
I'd like to think that I would have. I'm honest enough to, but certainly I wouldn't have become as good a leader. And a big part of the gift of my disability was that I became an enlightened conscious leader in a way that I might have done, probably would have, if I had done, would have taken me a lot longer. But I'm honest enough to know I would have interfered too much. I would have wanted the control, but I couldn't control it. So I had to find a way of empowering other people to go back to the values. We talk about excellence. But one of the reasons the school was so successful is that we had defined collectively what does excellence look like in terms of planning or execution or relationships or discipline. So everybody had that as their standard. I wouldn't have come up with that if I could have gotten into the classrooms and said, that's not good enough, or you should do that. I had to do it at a distance, which meant I had to find a way to do it. So it's a really good question, but I think inevitably, we don't learn when life is going well as much as we do when life is challenging. And so for me, when life is challenging, the first thing I ask is, what's the lesson I need to learn here? And the second question I ask is, where's the gift? And sometimes the gift is hidden. and you really have to look for it. But there's always a gift in there,
Where's
and
the
it
gift?
comes with the learning.
Where's the
What do you
gift?
think today's leader is missing as they start to work with people? What do you think? Do you see a common trend as a conscious leader now and knowing what you know? Do you see a common denominator, Gina, that today's leader is missing in the way that they approach their companies, their team, their client, whatever that may be for them? You know, what do you see?
I think we are in a paradigm shift from a profit-led business environment into a purpose-led business environment. And the old way of leading, which is I'm the leader, I'll tell you what to do, I'm the person who knows everything, that is outdated. And those companies that are led by leaders that do that, whether it's a company or politicians or families, whichever unit you're talking about, we're no longer in the position where any one person can know everything, and things are moving so far. We've got to work in where you empower others to be the best version of them, and where you work collaboratively and collegiately. And it may be that if we're working in a project that, Jay, you're the best person to lead this bit of it, or that I'm the best person. So there's got to be a shift. To be a leader who can be that confident in their people, you have to have confidence in yourself, because when you're not confident, you micromanage and it's not going to work. So you need leaders who are confident in themselves because they've done the deep dive work. They're taking the radical responsibility for themselves, which means that other people can't make them cross or frustrated or any of those things unless they choose to let them. And you bring your people are your treasure. You bring the best out in your people, who then share your vision, who have ownership of that vision, who are then as engaged as you are as delivering that vision. And the problem with the old style is that people don't have ownership, they don't feel valued. Targets are set that are impossible to manage, and it's a toxic culture within those organizations. Or even if it's not toxic, it's not healthy. And as a result, they may succeed in the short term, but they're never going to succeed in the long term, or build and maintain and sustain growing success over time.
Mm-hmm. With everything you've been through, what advice would you give your younger self?
I think if I believe in yourself first, that actually you are enough. I think that's probably in the fact that you're not, you're not in the crowd with people. Actually, do you really want to be? Are you a lemming or are you a leader? And I think when you're young, you want to belong to the in crowd, don't you? But lemmings have a habit of jumping off the cliff without realizing that there's a big drop. And I think if I had recognized that actually I wasn't part of the crowd because I wasn't, it was not who I was. So I think own who you are and be proud of who you are. Don't fit in simply because that feels more comfortable at the time.
I think that's excellent advice for anyone.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
Gina,
Any age.
Anyone, yeah.
the Genuinely You, the Leader's Spiritual Blueprint. I know you've gifted everybody watching here with a free copy of that. Can you let us know the experience they're going to get when they grab that, and what you hope for them to gain out of that?
It's interesting because when I first started teaching leadership, I didn't talk about spiritual stuff at all. And I used to slip it in through the back door. And, the old NLP, pace, and change, I would start with language which is very unspiritual and gradually slip in energy and, intuition and consciousness. I'm much more overt about it. So I decided that one of the things that might help people is a starting point, or if they were part way along a way of looking at themselves and how they operate in the world that would help them see themselves in a much more spiritual light, but at the same time was not so wiki woo that if you were starting your spiritual journey that you'd think, oh, this isn't for me. And originally it was going to be something like 5 pages. I think it's 37 pages now, and because it's become more and more comprehensive, and it's asking you to be honest with yourself and ask a set of questions along 5 different themes. And then the opportunity through that is to join a 5-day spiritual masterclass. So every day, hour and a half for 5 days, to actually then look at it, not as a principal point of view, to start to explore this at an individual level, because it seemed to me that it was an important thing for people to be able to do. And then if they want to take that beyond that, then they can come and work with me in a very different way. But I wanted to give people the opportunity, the leaders, coaches, people who have that impact potentially on other people. I believe that we are a critical point in the development of the human race. I believe that time is short and that we need leaders of leaders. And so my mission is to positively impact on at least 1 million leaders in the next 2 to 3 years through the development of what I call enlightened conscious leadership. And so this was a way of engaging people who perhaps either haven't started their spiritual journey. Those who are on listening to this show, of course, will have started their spiritual journey. But how do you accelerate that? How do you navigate without getting caught in the cul-de-sac or the quicksand that so many people do? And I think for a lot of people who are are overtly on their spiritual journey, have got caught up, and spirituality has almost taken the place of religion, and it's become so formulaic, so I'm right, you're wrong, that I wanted to offer something which gives a very different perspective.
Beautiful.
Gina, you
You
are
are a beautiful soul on the inside, the outside, all around. I mean, you're just lovely.
you love Gina.
I always have.
You couldn't stop smiling. Gina, you're amazing. You really are. You're an amazing spirit to get to meet in this lifetime. It's truly a privilege to do that. And you know, the wisdom, we are so grateful that you're sharing with us. And thank you for your service too.
Oh,
To
thank
humanity,
you.
to really working on a better place. Okay, everybody, you're crazy if you don't. All of our links will be in the description below. Get that free copy. Okay, it's valuable life lessons, and that you know, only Gina can share with us. So thank you for that, Gina.
And
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
of course, and together with Gina's help, we are turning the universal key to global harmony and creating a unified world. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, tune in often, tell all your friends, and most importantly, may all your dreams come true. Many blessings.